وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين المنتخبين المنتجبين لا سيما بقية الله في الأراضين وأرواح العالمين لتراب مقدمه الفداء واللعنة الدائمة الباقية على أعدائهم ومنكر فضائلهم وغاصب حقوقهم أجمعين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله سبحانه تبارك وتعالى في محكم كتابه ومتقن خطابه: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الله لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم لا تأخذه سنة ولا نوم له ما في السماوات وما في الأرض من ذا الذي يشفع عنده إلا بإذنه يعلم ما بين أيديهم وما خلفهم ولا يحيطون بشيء من علمه إلا بما شاء وسع كرسيه السماوات والأرض ولا يعوده حفظهما وهو العلي العظيم. لا إكراه في الدين قد تبين الرشد من الغي ومن يكفر بالطاغوت ويؤمن بالله فقد استمسك بالعروة الوثقى لا انفصام لها والله سميع عليم. بسائر صلاة محمد وعلى اللهم صل على محمد In honor of Shuhada of Karbala, recite another salawat ala Muhammad wa we hasten the reappearance of our awaited Imam, recite salawat ala Muhammad wa Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Alhamdulillah, we have reached our 6th day, and in the previous 5 majalis we mentioned regarding our theme, which is Tawheed, or according to the school of Ahlul Salam. And in each of those majalis we mentioned a particular aspect, a particular facet, particularly important aspect of that story. And yesterday we focused on a ritual which is a symbol or a sign of Tawheed. Today, relating to that and relating to our theme about Tawheed, we want to speak about not the ritual but the people related to Allah. In this regard, this is also a need and necessity of the people, of human beings. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the entity, the God, which cannot be seen because He has no physical form. He has no physical entity. There is nothing physical regarding Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And human beings, in order to connect, need something physical. They need to have something in order to connect. And we mentioned yesterday, you recall that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent prophets, and He sent some prophets with books and some prophets without books. But He sent no books without prophets. So this is very important, that there can be no theory without practical. This is the message of Allah. That yes, there can be practical with no theory, with no books. But there can be no books without any prophets. So regarding that, those prophets, 123,999 that came before the Holy Prophet of Islam, and 124,000 including our Holy Prophet. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, out of all of them, imagine, has only chosen to speak about a few of them in Holy Quran. 25 names are mentioned and a few others are mentioned regarding about whom there's some debate whether they were prophets or not. Some mentioned by name, some without names. For example, regarding Luqman, there's debate, was he just a wise man, or was he a prophet? Or regarding Khidr, was he just a wise man, or was he a prophet? But in any case, there are 25 prophets of Allah, Anbiya, who've been mentioned by name. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in this same Surah Baqarah that there are some تِلْكَ الرُّسُلُ فَضَّلْنَا بَعْضُهُمْ عَلَى بَعْضٍ. There are some whom we have given excellence over others. So they're not all the same in rank and excellence. Yes, in terms of message, لَا نُفَرِّقُ بَيْنَ أَحَدٍ. There's no difference between them. In other words, some people might be confused, or people might try to confuse them using these verses, because the both of them are in Surah Baqarah. In Surah Baqarah it says that we send the prophets and there's no difference between them. But in same Surah Baqarah he says that we sent messengers and we made some of them excel over others. So isn't this an apparent contradiction? No. There's no difference between them, because all of them are being sent by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All of them are preaching the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there's no difference. No prophet is going to come and say worship two gods. All the prophets are going to come and say worship one God. But in terms of their own excellence, some of them have been raised in excellence over others. Right? And this verse, which comes earlier to Ayatul Kursi in Surah Baqarah, tells us that, for example, Isa ibn Maryam, we gave him excellence over others. For example, Ibrahim alayhi salam, we gave him excellence, we mentioned him yesterday. Today I want to mention regarding a prophet, and particularly about a story that's attributed to him. Now, before I mention that prophet and that story, I want to, by way of introduction into this area, want to mention that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent prophets not because He is in need of sending prophets, but because you and I are in need of having practical examples in our lives. So this is number one. And number two is the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because He knows that you and I, all of us human beings, need practical examples in our lives, He has sent these prophets. Now it's His responsibility. So now we're coming back. This is why this topic is related to Tawheed. It's His responsibility, it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's responsibility to send the best people, the best guides, the best examples as His prophets. Why? Because He is Qadir, He's all-powerful. He is Alim, He's all-knowing. So He knows who the best people are, and He's capable of appointing them as well. So, if somebody has a problem with an action of a prophet, or even worse than that, if somebody accuses a prophet of Allah of doing something wrong, of doing a mistake, of doing an error, of doing a sin, alayadu billah min dhalik, this accusation isn't on the prophet. This accusation is on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That alayadu billah, Allah was incapable of choosing someone who would be able to deliver His message perfectly. Therefore, it is the basic, fundamental belief of Shia Imamiyya school of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam that every single person sent by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in Arabic we have a word for this, it's called Nas, the person who is being appointed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the one who is appointed is called Mansus. Nas is divine appointment, and Mansus is the one who is appointed. So that includes the prophets, but also others. We'll come to that in a moment. So the divine principle is what? Is that whosoever is mansus must be maqsoor. Whoever is mansus, whoever is divinely appointed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whoever that individual is. must be ma'soom, free of sins. Now, it's possible that somebody is not mansoos, but they are ma'soom. Yes. For example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that Maryam salamullah alayha is not mansoos, but she is ma'sooma. She is free of sins. But every person who is mansoos, by definition of being mansoos, appointed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, has to be ma'soom. And what does ma'soom mean? You notice how I translated ma'soom. What does it mean? Ma'soom means that this person who's been divinely appointed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has reached the level of understanding of ma'rifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that it is inconceivable for that person to disobey him. It is not possible for that person to disobey. That doesn't mean that that person can't commit sin. No, he can. He has the ability to. But because of his ma'rifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he chooses not to commit sins. This is ma'soom. This is the meaning of ma'soom. And every mansoos, everyone appointed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is ma'soom. And amongst them, of course, there's different ranks. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in Holy Quran that amongst them there are different ranks. There are some prophets, we only sent them for a particular family, particular group of people, few handful of people, sometimes only for their own family members. But there are some prophets whose scope of authority is greater. They're for the whole community, they're all for all the people in their time. And some of them we sent them with books. For example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Musa alayhi salam to Bani Israel with Torah. And Torah is book of Shariat, book of code of practice, good book of law. How to live your life. Shariat is how to live your life. And after him, to Bani Israel, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent more prophets. Some of them with Shariat, and some of them without Shariat. So some of them had to follow the previous Shariat that already existed. And some of them with new Shariat. One of the prophets sent to Bani Israel with new Shariat was Dawood alayhi salam. And for him, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that we gave different ranks to different prophets. And we gave وَآتَيْنَاهُ دَاوُودَ الزَّبُورَ. And we gave Dawood alayhi salam Zabur. What is Zabur? If we want to know what is Zabur, if we want to know what is Zabur, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, out of the books or the style of books, we could understand it from the fact that the book Sahifa Sajjadiyah of our fourth holy Imam alayhi salam, in the Rawayat sometimes is referred to as Zabur of Al Muhammad. So that means that Zabur also was a book of dua. And amongst the miracles or amongst the fadilat, amongst the ranks and excellences that Dawood alayhi salam had, was that he had a very beautiful voice. When he would recite, people would stop to listen to his recitation. Lemn Dawood is famous. You heard it before. Because he had a very beautiful voice. Amongst the miracles that he had, one of the miracles was that he used to hold the iron and it would become soft. And so he could mold it into whatever he wanted it to make it. And then once he had molded it, it would return back to its normal strength again. So he used to make the armor in order to defend himself in battle. And of course, stories about him are mentioned in the Bible as well. In fact, in English we have a saying where there's a weak opponent and a very strong opponent, and you give the example of David and Goliath. This is also mentioned in Holy Quran story of Talut and Jalut, also in Surah Baqarah. We won't go into that detail because we want to speak about something else about the Talut. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives him all this rank. Unfortunately, due to a campaign amongst Bani Israel. Why? It's mentioned, Quran tells us that Bani Israel, some of them, they used to exceed the limits. They used to go ahead from what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told them to do. And they went so far in exceeding the limits that they killed prophets. 70 prophets in one day. Allah. And Israel killed 70 prophets in one day. Now, in order to cover up and in order to justify these wrongdoings from the past, they had a campaign. Campaign is what? Campaign is that if you prove that prophets who came in the past also made mistakes, they also committed sins, they also did things wrong, then the indictment on other people will be less severe. Why? You will say this person killed so many prophets of Allah. You will say even so and so prophet, he killed a person. You will say this person oppressed these people, so and so prophet also did this. You say this person did this error, this mistake, you say it's not a big deal. Even such and such prophet also committed this mistake. So in order to cover up your own mistakes, you put these allegations on prophets of Allah. One such allegation is what? Holy Quran tells us about it. Holy Quran tells us, gives us an indication towards it. And this story is very important because it is one that's used as an accusation against Hazrat Dawood very commonly. Why? Because it exists in the Bible and it also exists in some of the Muslim, some of the Hadith literature as well. So here I'm quoting from Uyun al-Akhbar al-Rida of Imam of Shaykh Saduq from Imam Ali ibn Musa alayhi salatu wasalam. That somebody came to ask Imam alayhi salam about this story. It's mentioned in Surah Isra, Surah number 38 of the Holy Quran. Imam alayhi salam asked him, he said to him, what do the people say? So this person is narrating and Imam is listening. Then Imam will mention the version from Al-Bada. So this person says, companion who comes to ask the Imam, he says that, Ya Ibn Rasulullah, the people say that Dawood alayhi salam had divided his time in half. What did he used to do? Because he was وَأَتَيْنَاهُ دَاوُودَ مُلْكٍ, we gave him Dawood the kingdom. So in addition to being a prophet, he was also the king. So he had divided his time into half. What did he used to do? One day, the whole day, from morning to night, he used to do ibadat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whole day. We complain 5 times a day doing praise. Dawood alayhi salam from morning to night, whole day, doing ibadat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The next day, he used to listen to the judgment, the cases of the people and give judgments. So this is how he had divided his time. One day, whole day ibadah. The next day, all day, giving judgments. Then the next day, ibadah, judgments, so on and so forth. So one day when he was in the day, which was the day of ibadah, he was in the musalla, in the mihrab, in the place of doing ibadah. And two birds came. And they're fighting with each other. Two birds came and they're fighting with each other. So he gets distracted. This is what he's saying. This is the story. That he gets distracted watching the birds fighting from the ibadah. And the birds, as they're fighting, they leave his room where he is. So now he's curious, where are they going? So he leaves his room and he goes to see where they're going. So he comes out of the room and he sees that the birds have gone into the house next door. In the house next door is his brother who's called Uriah. The house next door belongs to his brother called Uriah. And in that house, now again, all verbatim, I'm quoting from the person who's mentioned it. I keep emphasizing this because I don't want you to get the wrong message from this story. So he says that he looks inside the house, and in that house he sees that wife of Uriah, who was very beautiful, is without any clothes. And so he stares at her. And then there's a battle going on, so he sends Uriah to the battle, and he tells the commander of the army to keep Uriah at the front of the battle so he gets killed. Eventually in the battle, Uriah gets killed, and Dawood alayhi salam gets married to his widow. Imam alayhi salam, when he hears this story, he slaps his forehead. And he said, do you know that you put 3 allegations on a prophet of Allah? Each one of them is worthy of punishment. So number 1, you put the allegation that he got distracted in ibadah. If he was praying, there's no question that he could look at anything else. Doesn't matter how important it was. Number 2, you put the allegation that he looked at the wife. So he had lust, he had desire for the wife of his brother. And number 3, you put the allegation of murder, that he sent Uriah into battle with the niyyah and intention that he could get killed so that he would get married to his wife. The companion says, Ya Ibn Rasulullah, then what is the reality of the story? What actually happened? What is it that Quran is referring to? So Imam alayhi salam says, what Quran is referring to is that one day when Dawood was sitting alone, he thought to himself that there's nobody more knowledgeable than me. He didn't say it, he just thought. It came in his mind, just like Musa alayhi salam one day thought that there's nobody more knowledgeable than me, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent him to Khidr. That you should remove this thought from your mind that there's nobody more knowledgeable than you. So Dawood alayhi salam, in his mind he thinks that there's nobody more knowledgeable than me. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends down 2 birds. And they come to him on the day when he's doing ibadah. And they say that we have a case which is very urgent and we want you to hear the case. So Dawood alayhi salam says, what's the matter? So he says, he hears the case. One of them says that my brother, this other one is my brother. And my brother, he has 99 wives, and I don't even have one. And the one that I want to get married to, even that one the one who has 99 wants to get married to. So he wants to have 100. Dawood alayhi salam, without listening to the other one, without listening to the other side, says to him that the one who has 99 didn't do the right thing. You should have left the one for you to get married. As soon as they leave, Dawood alayhi salam realizes that I didn't listen to the other side. The answer that he gave was correct, was not wrong. But as the one giving judgment, he should have listened to the other side. And this was from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because Dawood had 99 wives. And Uriah had one wife. So when he was killed in battle, not that alayhi billah, Dawood stared at her, or that he fell in love with her, alayhi billah, you know, it's not a romantic comedy, it's a prophet of Allah. That alayhi billah, he stared at a woman and he fell in love with her. Nor that the fact that he sent Uriah into battle in order to get killed. No, he went into battle and he died. And when he died, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to him that in that time the culture was that people, if the brothers had a wife and she died, and the brother died, then she couldn't get married again. A widow couldn't get married again. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to break this tradition. And so he told Dawood alayhi salam that you get married to her so that people know that widows, people can also get married to widows. Now, Imam alayhi salatu salam says that no. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, Imam Rida alayhi salam, Imam Sadiq, and from Imam Amir al-Mu'min alayhi salam, 3 Imams mentioned that if somebody mentioned this story, Imam Amir al-Mu'minin, Imam Sadiq, and Imam Rida alayhi salam say that if somebody mentioned this story, accusing the Prophet of Allah of breaking his prayers and of lust and of killing and murdering his brother, then I would punish him twice. Number 1 for attributing a lie to the Prophet, and number 2 to try and tarnish his character as a result of mentioning this. But all of this, like I said, all of this is because people from Bani Israel wanted to remove the indictment that would come onto themselves as a result of believing in, or as a result of their own misdeeds and actions. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said regarding this, that those people from Bani Israel who used to exceed the limits, who used to go ahead, who didn't used to observe the laws, what did we do with them? لُعِنَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا مِنْ بَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ عَلَى لِسَانِ دَاوُودَ وَعِيسَى بْنِ مَرْيَمَ. Not just that we did la'nat on them, but we ordered Dawood to make la'nat on them. For those who disbelieved and they used to exceed the limits. From Bani Israel, we ordered Dawood alayhi salam to make la'nat on them. Now, this aspect, this point, gives us reference to the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's tawheed would only be protected if we believe, and we have to believe, that prophets of Allah didn't make any mistakes. But what was this? That he didn't listen to the other angel and he thought that I'm the most knowledgeable in the istila, or in the terminology of kalam, of ilm al-kalam, which is the ilm and the knowledge and the science which deals with our beliefs. Sometimes we translate it as theology. It's called tark al-awla. What does this mean? It means that you have 2 options in front of you. One of them is better than the other, but you take the lesser one. had two options and you left the better one, leaving al-awla, the better one. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala holds His representatives, prophets and messengers to such a high standard that mistakes and sins are no question. Even if they take the path which is less than the better one, He will call them out. This is the message from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that whosoever we increased in rank, we also increased their responsibility in their actions of what they do. Now, Dawood alayhi salatu wasalam, who's the prophet and he's also the king, he's also the ruler of the time. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَآتَيْنَاهُ دَاوُودَ الْمُلْكَ, we gave Dawood the kingdom. Then, now one day, after all of this, and he's coming to the end of his life, he wants to appoint one of his sons as the successor, as his successor. So, one day he makes an intention. Again, he doesn't say anything. He just makes an intention that today I'm going to appoint, or I'm going to announce one of my sons as my successor. So, that day when he's about to leave, now imagine 99 wives. One day he's about to leave his home to go to give judgment. So one of the wives says, she doesn't know what he's thinking, but she says that you should appoint my son as the successor. Hazrat Dawood realizes that if today he makes this announcement, he will be influenced by that decision or by that statement. So he changes his mind. He says that today, again, he hasn't said anything, but he changes his mind. He says, that day I changed my mind to that I was going to announce the successor, so I didn't announce the successor. Then some weeks pass, and then a case comes to him. What does this case come? This case comes to him that there's two people. One of them has an orchard of some kind of fruits, and one of them has a lot of cattle, cows, goats, all and so forth. The one who has the cattle, in the middle of the night, the cattle got released from their pens and they came and they ate all the fruits in the orchard. So now Dawood alayhi salam thinks that today is the best day for me to announce my successor. Right? So he says, call all my sons. And then he says, whoever gives the correct judgment on this case will be my successor. So they call all the sons. And Hazrat Sulaiman is the youngest of all the sons of Hazrat Dawood. So they all give their opinions that this is how much compensation should be given, this is how much should be given, and so on and so forth. And at the end, Hazrat Dawood asks Sulaiman, he says, you tell me what should be the compensation for. So Hazrat Sulaiman says the compensation is that 1 year of the harvest, of the orchard, the amount, the money, the wealth that would have accrued for selling those fruits is what is liable on the one who owns the cattle. So Hazrat Dawood says, what's the evidence? He says the evidence is that the orchard is still there. The orchard is still there. Next year, the orchard will bear fruits again. So therefore, it's not an irretrievable loss that he has to pay for the whole orchard. He only has to pay for the fruits, the value of the fruits that have been wasted because of the cattle attacking the harvest. Hazrat Dawood says that at that time, he says, now Jibreel came down and said that out of all of your sons, Sulaiman alayhi salam gave the right answer. Sulaiman gave the correct answer, and therefore he should be made the successor. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is announcing that this is لَمْ تَجِدُ لِسُنَّةِ اللَّهِ تَبْدِيلًا. You will not find any changes in the practice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's giving us a policy. This is a policy making statement. That know that whenever a prophet appoints a successor, he does so on the basis of his knowledge. He does so on the basis that that person knows. And Sulaiman alayhi salam, when he becomes the successor, now he makes a dua. And he says, oh Allah, yes, I got the prophethood and I got the kingdom. But I want you to give me a kingdom that you've never given anybody before, and nor will you give anyone after in this dunya. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him the kingdom. He used to rule over the winds. He could speak to the animals. One day he's in the court and he wants to bring the throne of Bilqis. Bilqis is the queen of Sheba. She's coming to see him. You know the story. Right? She's coming. He's written a letter. Hudhud investigates, finds out that there's a place, there's people worshipping the sun. So Sulaiman alayhi salam writes a letter to her. That letter is mentioned in the Quran. That's why there's a surah in the Quran where Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim is mentioned twice. Because the letter starts innahu min Sulaiman wa innahu Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So now she's coming, and he says, I want the throne of Bilqis here before me, before she comes. So فَقَالَ إِفْرِيتٌ مِّنَ الْجِنِّ. One of the jinn who thought something of himself, sometimes it's mentioned Ifrit is the sifat that he thought something of himself. Some Mufassirin mentioned that he was called Ifrit. In any case, the reason I mention all of this because I want to go towards this particular point which was mentioned that day. He says, Ana Qawiyun Amin, I am strong, I am trustworthy, I can bring the throne of Bilqis qabla an taqum min maqamik, before you get up from your place. Imagine I'm sitting here and I want to get up. How long will it take me? Not even a second. Not even maybe a few seconds. Yeah, my reflexes are gone slow, but not that slow. Right? So it'll take maybe a few seconds. So if he says, I can bring you the throne of Bilqis قَبْلَ أَن تَقُومَ مِن مَقَامِكَ, before you get up from your place, it's only going to be a few seconds. But note that Quran doesn't record that Sulaiman alayhi salam gave any reply to him. Any reply to the jinn. Then you know that Ta'ala, then he spoke ilmum min al-kitab, who had some knowledge of the book, and he said, I'll bring it, I'll bring it in a blink of an eye, and he said it, and the throne of Bilqis was there. And then he said, if it was you and me, he would have said, look at me, look what I did. He said, هذا من فضل ربي. This is only because of the grace that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestowed on me in order to do this. In any case, we'll leave that for one side. Sulaiman didn't reply to the jinn. Messages from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that knows that whosoever considers themselves something in front of Allah and His Prophet, Allah and His Prophet don't consider him anything. Allah and His Prophet don't. This is a policy, again, policy making. It's not just related to Sulaiman and the jinn. It means anyone who comes in front of any prophet and considers himself something, Allah and the Prophet don't consider him anything, not even worthy of reply. But counter to that, if somebody in presence of Allah and the Prophet comes with humility, then there's no limit to what Allah and the Prophet can give him or her and which level they can take him. No limit. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the owner of all honor, of all dignity. وَلِلَّهِ الْعِزَّةُ الْجَمِيعَ. Izzat, honor, belongs only to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All of it, only to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Condition is that you have to come to Allah and the Prophet with humility. If you come with humility to Allah and to the Prophet, then Allah and the Prophet would elevate you to a status that is beyond imagination. Beyond imagination. One day, Rasulullah looked at all of the children and he picked up one of the children in his arms. And they said, Ya Rasulullah, what's special about this child? Ya Rasulullah, what's special about this child? He said, what is special about him is that wherever my Hussein goes, he picks up the dust from beneath his feet and puts it on his head. That child is Habib ibn Malay. That child, Habib, Rasulullah says that I love him because he loves Hussein. I love him because he loves Hussein. This is when Habib is young. This is when Habib is young. One day it's mentioned that he was young in the time of Imam Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salam. He used to live in Kufa. His father was young. His father tells him that Imam Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salam and Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein alayhi salam are coming to our house. So he's so excited that he goes on the roof waiting for them. And somehow or another he falls off the roof and he dies. Allah. Died. Young man dies. You imagine someone falls off the roof, you're going to die? When Imams, all three of them come, Imam Hussain asks, where's my friend? So now his father is trying to hide the fact that he's dying. Imam Hussain says, I know what's happened to him. Bring him in front of me. Imam Hussain says, bring him in front of me. And Imam Hussain recites some kalimat, says a 2 rakat prayer, and Habib comes back to life. I don't know what he said, but I'm sure that he would have said that, Habib, I'm going to need you one day. You can't die this early because I'm going to need you one day. You know, every single person in Karbala is special, very special. But about Habib, there's no person in Karbala that Imam invited to Karbala other than Habib. No person, nobody. Imagine, it's the 3rd of Muharram and Bibi Zainab comes to visit Imam Hussain in his tent, and she says, my brother Hussain, every day we hear that the forces of Yazid are increasing. Isn't there anybody who would side with us, who would come to us, who would come to our aid? Imam Hussain replies, he says, Zainab, it is easy for falsehood to buy people, but it's difficult for truth to convince people. Truth always only has a few people supporting it. So Bibi Zainab Salamullah says, why don't you call upon your friend Habib? Imagine he's called Habib means friend. He's called Habib. That night Imam Hussain writes a letter. And in this letter he tells us, just the first line of the letter, he tells us that same principle that was the principle of Dawood and Sulaiman and all the other prophets, that we only choose people on the basis of what they know and how they act. He says, من الحسين الخريب إلى الرجل الفقيه حبيب بن مظاهر. This is a letter from Hussein. Who Hussein? The one who has no home. The one who has no home. إلى الرجل الفقيه حبيب بن مظاهر الأسدي. To a man who is faqih, Habib ibn Madahir al-Asadi. Why is he saying this? Why, out of all of the things, why did he say Rajul al-Faqih? He's telling us that, remember, on the day of Ashura, Shariyyat is under threat. Islam is under threat. And in order to defend Shariyyat, in order to defend Islam, I need someone who knows the religion. Not everybody is for Karbala, only that person who knows the religion. And imagine, you and I call somebody faqih is something else. Imam Ma'soom says, Rajul al-Faqih. This man knows the religion. This man has faqahat in religion. Deep understanding of religion. What does he say? One line in the letter only. He says, Habib, you know what is my relationship with Rasulullah. I'm in Karbala. If it's possible for you, come to my aid. He sends this letter with a letter carrier and it goes to Kufa. That letter carrier arrives, knocks on the door of Habib, is mentioned. Habib has sit down to eat. As soon as they knock on the door, he says, who is it? He says, Ana Baridul Hussein. I'm the letter carrier of Hussein alayhi salam. He leaves his food. He gets up. He opens the door. He doesn't look at the letter carrier. He takes the letter and he puts it on his eyes. Then he kisses it and then he opens it. As he's reading the letter, he starts to weep. His wife comes into the room and she says, Habib, what's the matter? Now, the situation in Kufa is such that brother cannot trust brother. Husband cannot trust wife. Wife cannot trust husband. Nobody knows at which moment somebody might get sold out to Ibn Ziyad. So Habib also has to tread cautiously. He says, it's a daughter from the son of Rasulullah. It's a letter from the son of the daughter of Rasulullah, from Imam Hussain alayhi salam. So she says, what does it say? He says, it says he's at Karbala. So she says, what are you going to do? She asks, what are you going to do? I'm quoting this very responsibly, verbatim from the Maqatim. He says, I'm thinking about it. She says, what are you going to do? He says, I'm thinking about it. She says, she takes off her jewelry and she throws it at Habib. And she says, Habib, may your mother weep for you that the son of Rasulullah called you and you reply, I'm thinking about it. She says, Habib, if you don't want to go, give me your sword, I will go to defend the son of Rasulullah. Habib says, I was just testing you. I needed to make sure that you are on the same page as me. He gets up, takes his sword and leaves. Curfew in Kufa. Nobody can enter, nobody can leave. One riwayat mentions that he's going through the marketplace and he meets Muslim ibn al-Sajjah. Muslim ibn al-Sajjah is one of the eldest Shuhada of Karbala, also a resident of Kufa. He's standing in the marketplace to buy dye to dye his beard. Habib says to him, Muslim, don't you have the news? He says, what's happening? He says, son of the Prophet has reached Karbala. Muslim, he has the bowl of dye in his hand. He throws it to the ground, it breaks. He says, now this beard would be dyed with my blood. No more dye, it would be dyed with my blood. Some narratives say they leave together, some narratives say no, it's too unsafe, so they leave separate. Habib is still thinking, how am I going to leave Kufa? How will I be able to leave? So he sends one of his servants to a place outside Kufa where he had a property. He says, go there with my horse and I will join you when it's possible to leave. He notices at the time of prayer, people are still in the masjid, and so he's able to leave. He manages to escape. He reaches that place where he has the property outside Kufa. He notices that the servant is speaking to the horse. My master has been delayed. But don't worry. If he doesn't come, I will come. I will ride you and go to the aid of Hussein alayhi salam. Habib says, oh my master Hussein, what a time has come that servants of the servants should say we'll go and help Hussein. Allahu Akbar. Hussein says, Habib says to the servant, you're free to go. The servant says to Habib, oh my master, you did injustice with me. All my life I served you. Now I have an opportunity to serve the son of Zahra and you're telling me you can go. You're not giving me that opportunity to serve the son of Zahra? They both leave. They ride the horse, they ride into Karbala. There's dust everywhere. Zainab Salamullah alayha is. She says to Fizza, find out what's going on. Fizza says, Habib has come. Zainab says, send my salam. Send my salam to Habib. Fizza comes with a salam. Habib takes off his ammaba, he throws it on the ground. He says, is this what has happened to the family of the Prophet, that Zainab sends salam to someone like me? Is this how much difficulty the family of the Prophet is in, that Zainab is sending salam to me? Muhammad sent Habib into the battle. Sent Habib into battle. Habib fights. Says that he had tied his waist in order to keep his back straight. When they used to say to him that Habib, you become old, he says, Hussein, your love made me young. Hussein, your love makes me young. He fights, he comes down from the horse. When he comes down from the horse, he calls on Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Imam Hussein alayhi salam and Muslim ibn al-Sajjad come to the side of Habib. He's about to die. His last words are, Muslim says to him, Habib, I would have asked you for a final wish for wasiyyah. But I know that I'm also going to die. I'm also going to join you. Habib is about to die. Final words come out from his mouth. He says, Usikum bihadha rajul. Pointing to Imam Hussein alayhi salam, says, my only wasiyat is that you make sure that as long as you are alive, nothing happens to him. This is the maqam of the one who was chosen by Imam Hussein alayhi salam. That today every single person, 20 million people who are going to visit Imam Hussein alayhi salam, can't go to visit him until they first say salam to Habib. Out of all of the shuhada of Karbala is buried separately. You enter into the dari, into the room, and you first say salam to Habib, then you go and do salam to Imam Hussein alayhi salam. When the Imam Hussein alayhi salam carries him back into the tents. When the caravan after the day of Ashura reaches to Kufa, there in Kufa is one of the sons of Habib. He finds out, who is it that killed my father? He says, who is it that killed my father? They tell him, so and so killed your father. He finds out who that person is, he kills that person. He takes the head of Habib and he leaves happily, saying that no, that whosoever has a son alive cannot bear to see the blood of his father unavenged. Last statement. I don't know, this is all mentioned in the books. This statement that I'm saying to you, I don't know, it's not mentioned in the books, but my heart says that when Imam As-Sajjad would have had this sentence, he would have said, oh Allah, my father's blood is also unavenged. It will stay unavenged until Yusuf Az-Zahra would come to avenge it. Ala wa la'natullahi ala al-qawm al-dhalimin wa sayalamu alladhina zalamu ayya munqalabin yanqalibun. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un.
Y'all sing. 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 Y'all sing.
Image of the Prophet Ali, Ali. Image of the Prophet Ali, Ali. Ali, Ali, Akbar, Ali, Ali. Ali, Ali, Akbar, Ali, Ali. Image of the Prophet Ali, Ali. Image of the Prophet Ali, Ali.